Letters across the sea. The year was 1943, and Europe was in the throes of the Second World War. While soldiers marched across fields far from home, they carried only the memories and letters that kept their hearts tethered to something brighter. Among those soldiers was Lieutenant Jack Harrington, a young man from a small village in England with piercing blue eyes and a quiet resilience. Jack had been stationed in France, his days filled with the brutality of war and the quiet moments that reminded him of the life he left behind. Before leaving England, Jack had met a young woman named Evelyn Turner. Evelyn was the daughter of a shopkeeper in his village, with a sharp wit and a kind smile that had caught Jack's attention when they were both invited to a local gathering just before he left for service. Evelyn and Jack had spent that evening talking under the stars, sharing stories and laughter as if the war didn't exist. She had pressed a small handkerchief into his hand as he boarded the train the next morning, whispering, "Come back safe, Jack." Days became weeks, and weeks became months. Jack, like many soldiers, found solace in writing letters. Every week, he poured his thoughts onto paper, hoping his words would reach Evelyn. He wrote about the scenes around him, omitting the horrors, sharing stories of camaraderie, the simple joy of receiving a hot cup of tea after a long day, or the stunning quiet of the French countryside when the fighting paused. Evelyn, for her part, waited eagerly for each of Jack's letters. She had taken a job at the village post office, partly to stay busy, but also to ensure that she would be among the first to know if news of Jack came in. Every letter from him was a lifeline, a thread of hope that reminded her of the night they had shared. She would read his words, her heart aching with worry but also brimming with pride. One day a letter arrived from Jack, and this one was different. His usually composed handwriting had been hastily scrawled, and a small dark stain marked the corner of the paper. "Dear Evelyn, I hope this letter finds you well. I don't know how to put this, but things have been harder than I imagined. Last week we lost several good men who had wives and children waiting for them. I can't help but wonder if I'll make it back. But then, I think of you, and I know I must hold on. I don't know what the future holds, but you are my light in this darkness. Remember the night under the stars? I still see it when I close my eyes. Yours, Jack." Evelyn's fingers trembled as she read the letter. She felt as though she was standing beside him in that foreign land, feeling his fear and his determination. That evening she wrote back, pouring her heart into words that she hoped would give him strength. "Dear Jack, hold on a little longer. When I read your letters, I see a future where we walk hand in hand along the shores of the lake near the village, where I make you laugh by imitating Mrs. Clancy's scolding voice. You are stronger than this war, Jack, and I believe that someday we'll be together again. With all my heart, Evelyn." The letters continued, each one a bridge across the sea that separated them. Evelyn would spend her days working and her nights writing, while Jack clung to her words as an anchor, reminding him of the life that awaited beyond the battlefield. Their relationship grew deeper, transcending the brief hours they had spent together in person. Through letters they shared dreams, fears and hopes, each word drawing them closer. One chilly evening in December, Jack's unit was ordered to push forward into enemy territory. The mission was dangerous, and the possibility of return uncertain. As he prepared to march, Jack clutched Evelyn's latest letter in his pocket, promising himself that he would survive this for her. In the midst of the chaos, Jack was injured. A piece of shrapnel had grazed his arm, leaving him bleeding and weak. He was evacuated to a field hospital, where he drifted in and out of consciousness. Through the haze, he thought of Evelyn, his fingers brushing the letter she had written him. Her words seemed to echo in his mind, filling him with a determination to survive. Days later, he awoke fully, the pain in his arm a dull throb. His first thought was of Evelyn. He asked the nurse if he could write a letter, and she kindly obliged. With a shaky hand, he wrote, "Dear Evelyn, I'm sorry I've not written in a while. I've been in a bit of a rough spot, but I'm on the mend now. Your letters kept me going when I thought I couldn't. I think of you every day, and your words give me the strength I need to keep fighting. Someday soon, I hope to hold your hand again. Yours always, Jack." The letter reached Evelyn just before Christmas, bringing tears to her eyes. She clutched it close, whispering a prayer for his safety. With renewed hope, she continued writing, each letter a testament to her love and belief in him. As the war dragged on, Jack's letters came less frequently, often delayed by the turmoil and constant movement of troops. Evelyn, now accustomed to the uncertainty, held on to each one with the same reverence as the first. Every word, every line, was a reminder of the love they had nurtured from afar. Finally, in the spring of 1945, the war drew to a close. Jack was among the survivors, though he bore scars, both visible and invisible. His first thought was of home, of Evelyn, who had waited so patiently. He boarded the ship that would take him back to England, clutching the letters that had kept him alive through the darkest days. When he arrived in his village, he saw her waiting on the platform, just as she had promised in her letters. She looked different, her face thinner, her eyes shadowed with worry. But when she saw him, her face lit up, and she ran to him. They stood in silence, their eyes meeting, each seeing in the other the strength that had carried them through. Jack took her hand, and they walked together toward the lake, as they had dreamed. He turned to her, his voice barely a whisper. "Evelyn, I wouldn't have made it without you. Your letters, your words, they were my lifeline." Evelyn smiled, her eyes filling with tears. "Jack, I knew you'd come back. You were always stronger than the war." They stood by the lake, the world around them quiet and at peace for the first time in years. Jack looked at Evelyn, his heart swelling with gratitude and love. They had survived together, even when separated by an ocean and a war. And as they watched the sun set over the water, their hands entwined, they knew that they had found something worth fighting for, a love that had carried them through the darkest of times and one that would endure for all the days of peace to come.